Hi, this is Maureen Churko from Go in Peace Doula Services. I am an end of life doula. I am a certified life planning specialist, and I am a caregiver and with emphasis on dementia care. So, what I want to come and talk to you today about is planning. And we should be good at planning. I mean, when you get to be my age, of course you're good at planning. You've planned a wedding. In my case, I planned 2 weddings. Sometimes you planned your children's weddings to the extent of them having a wedding planner. You've planned the birth of your children. You've planned your house and how you're going to lay your house out. We've planned parties. We've planned holidays. We've planned all kinds of things at this point. But the one thing that a lot of people do not plan is their end of life. And let's face it, we're all going to have an end of life. None of us are leaving this planet without an end of our life. So it's something that should be planned, especially if you're the kind of person that likes to have everything in order. I sometimes think that there's a stigma to the end of life planning, that people think that if they talk about it, that somehow or another death is going to happen to them sooner, or if they don't talk about it, it's not going to happen to them. But unfortunately, it's going to happen to each one of us. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't plan for our end of life, just like we do all of the other things in our life. As a caregiver for 14 years, I've been with many people through their end of life, and I've seen what happens when people do not have their affairs in order. I've seen what happens in situations where there is no medical directive that is done, and the people are taken to the hospital and everything under the sun is done to them. I've seen where people haven't been very specific about their wishes, and 2 people in the family disagree with the other 2 people in the family, and it can make things very, very difficult. I just recently experienced on my own, my sister passed away a year ago, and she was younger than me. And she did have a terminal cancer that got to a point where it could not be fixed anymore. And she assured all of us, you guys, I have everything taken care of. I have everything written down. I've been very specific about how I want everything. So don't worry about that. I did all of the planning. So we just accepted that, and unfortunately nobody asked her, well, can I see what your plans are? Just as simple, can I see what your plans are? We have a big family, and none of us did that. And so while things were going on during the process of her last days, we had no idea if her wishes were being fulfilled. We had no idea if we were doing the right thing by her. Death came, and then things that had to be organized after that, we didn't know. A lot of things we didn't know, even what she wrote down was. There was no distinction on who was going to go through her things and who was going to take care of all of that. So there was a lot of chaos, and it was unnecessary chaos. Some of it even I don't think will ever be resolved, and it really had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with any of that. It was just decisions that were being made. I do, when I ask my friends and my close friends, I'll say, do you guys have your affairs in order? Now I'm in my 60s, so this is a typical conversation that people in their 60s have, and oh yeah, we've been to the lawyer, we have everything taken care of. The lawyer, wrote this thing out for us, and everything is ready. We've got everything covered. And I'll say, well, did your lawyer do an advance directive for you for all of your medical wishes? Oh, I'm sure that it's in there. They were very thorough. They did everything. And then when I say, well, can I look at your advanced directive, medical directive, it's usually one paragraph. And the paragraph is usually about do not resuscitate, a DNR, do not resuscitate, and that's it. Nothing else. And I just tread carefully and usually ask more questions, but there's so much more, that really has to be done. I mean, when you close someone's life down, there's a lot of details and a lot of things that need to be done. And here's the thing. You can either make a clear path for the people that you love to figure out your life, or you can have them go for months, sometimes even years, trying to put pieces of a puzzle together that they have no idea how far it stretches, how big of a table they're going to need for the puzzle pieces, or how much time it's going to take. So if you are a person who doesn't really care if that's what happens, then this podcast is probably not for you. But if you are a person who doesn't want your loved ones to spend all of that time trying to figure out the pieces of your life so they can navigate the end of your life, or they can navigate through what happens, when somebody's life is ending, then this is definitely for you. I do also want to say at this point that a lot of times when you're a married couple, a lot of married couples say, oh, my husband will take care of everything. He knows where everything is. He takes care of all the finances. He knows what to do. Or the husband will say, oh, my wife takes care of that, and she knows where everything is, and, she's handled everything, our whole marriage. And you might not even know how to get into his smartphone because he never told you what the code was to get in. I mean, there's so many more things, and another person can't possibly know that another person knows all of it. And so don't assume that just because you're married that they know the other thing. The other thing I want to say about marriage too is that most people think that their spouses are the best person to know all of this about their life, and that this is the person, my husband, if something happened to me, my husband will take care of everything. But you also have to really think about, is your husband the kind of person who's always made decisions easily? Is your husband the kind of person that can be easily manipulated by somebody else throwing a monkey wrench into decisions? Does your husband work really, really well under pressure? Because chances are, if you can't speak for yourself, you're either dead or you're in a very, very, very difficult medical situation. So sometimes the spouse is not the best person, to take care of these things. So I just want you to think about that. So 20 years ago, our lives were so much easier. We didn't have we had the internet, but we didn't have all the uses of it. We weren't paying bills online. We weren't, getting subscriptions to something that were automatically filled every day. We didn't have a digital footprint 20 years ago. Maybe I should say 25, 30. But things were easier, before. Now, our world is our lives are much bigger because of the kind of world that we live in, if you think about the differences. 25 years ago, we weren't paying for TV. And we certainly weren't paying for cell phones unless we had a job that needed them. So, now, we have a lot more complications in our life just because of all of the digital world. So let me ask you this question. Let's get back on the subject, and let me ask you this question. Let's say, something happened to you today and you were unable to speak for yourself, do anything for yourself. Let's say something happened and you were in a coma, or that something else happened and you died. Would another person, whoever that person that you think should be, would they be able to step into your life and close down the things that need to be closed, fulfill the things that need to be fulfilled, find the things that need to be found, and make the decisions for you that need to be made? Think about your life. Just think about one day out of your life and how many decisions are made. Oh, I paid the electric bill today. I have a calendar in my computer that it keeps me in track of when I have to pay what. Does the person who knows how to take care of your life know how to get to that calendar? Do they even know how to get into your computer? Or like I said earlier, do they know how to get in with a code in your phone to be able to find important information? That's right, I got the mail today and I got my turmeric that I get once a month. Where did I get it from? Amazon. How was it paid? Oh, it's automatically paid. It's automatically taken out of such and such account. Or it's automatically put on XYZ, charge bill. Is it written down anywhere? Is there anything that somebody can just look at and say, these are the things that she has on prescriptions too, but subscriptions? Is there anything just stating that? Is there any one thing that lists all of your charge cards, all of the numbers, all the expiration dates, when the payments are due? I don't know about you, but I don't even write checks. I maybe write one check a month, and I don't even put it in my check register because I just go online and look up my account. Oh, does the person taking care of that know how to do that? Well, they know where does the money come from that goes into that account and how much is coming out of that account. Like, these are all things, that go through our daily lives that somebody needs to know. So let me ask you these questions. If you work, does this person know who to call to tell them that you're not coming into work tomorrow? Do they, know where to get that information from? And do they know that if you can't come into work, let's say because you are in a coma, do they know what is covered under any of your work plan or your health plan? Do you have subscriptions that automatically get paid? And do they know how, what, when, and where those are paid from? Do they know where your health history is, where your insurance card is, when your insurance card expires, where your doctor is located, what your doctor's phone number is? Are they going to have to do a lot of searching through things to find that? Do they know the dates of when everything gets paid and how they get paid? Like I said earlier about the electric bill, do they know that the electric bill gets paid on the 14th every single month? If it's not paid on the 14th, you get a late fee. I mean, think about the late fees on credit cards alone. If on most of my credit cards, if there's a late payment, it's $41. If I have 10 credit cards, that could be $410 before the person I've left in charge realizes that that's, $410 is just going to go down the tubes. Do they know who owes you money? Do they know who you owe money to? Perhaps, you borrowed, some money from, your friend, Susie. Do they know that you owe that money and that is part of what needs to be paid out of anything that is left over? Because sometimes we don't talk about that. We don't say, yeah, my cousin Vinny, borrowed $2,000 from me, and he needs to pay me because we're just getting paid every month and nobody even knows where that money's going. Do you have cash somewhere that nobody else knows where it's at? Because that's a problem. That cash might not ever be found. Do they know what all comes out of your accounts automatically? We're all on auto payments, so many auto payments. Do they know what gets paid automatically? I mean, wouldn't it be a shame if they double paid your electric bill because they didn't know that came out automatically? Do they know where you keep your receipts? Perhaps something needs to be returned. Perhaps something is in a box, never been used, and never will be used because it was ordered by you. Where's the receipt for that? Where can that be returned to? Do they know who to call to let them know what's going on with you? Friends, relatives, acquaintances, and they know how to get to those phone numbers? Do they know your social security number? We keep our social security number really quiet and private, which is what we need to do. But this person's going to need to know that. Do they know where your personal papers are kept? I was divorced before. The divorce decree from my first marriage there's a lot of things that need that divorce decree. Do they know where that is? And that's not even the medical things. When you think about your digital footprint and everything that you do online, do they know all about that? And if there's some things that you don't want them to know about that, when have you decided that you're going to cancel that so that nobody else knows? Take a look around your house. Is everything in this room something that if somebody went through it, would you be embarrassed by it if they read it? Would you be embarrassed by it if they saw it? Would it change the way that they think about you forever? Those are all things, to think about. So that's just some things. Now let's talk about your advanced medical directive. So an advanced medical directive is something that directs the person that you want to be in charge at making decisions for you about your health. It goes way beyond a DNR, and it goes way beyond a dementia directive. In fact, let's just stop here and let's talk about that. Right now, I'm 63 years old and I don't have dementia. What's the likelihood of me getting dementia? Pretty high, because everybody is in a pretty high risk. The time to sign a dementia directive is when you don't have dementia. And always make sure that your directives put somebody else in charge. If I have my husband in charge of my medical directive and he gets dementia before me, and I don't have that changed, I have nobody making decisions for me. Nobody making qualified decisions for me. And in an emergency, you need it. So the medical directive, the same thing I call the advanced directive, is not something that has to be done by an attorney. Your will needs to be done by an attorney, and your power of attorneys, both your financial power of attorney and your medical power of attorney. They don't have to be the same people, but both of those need to be written up by an attorney. But your medical directive does not. So this person that you put in charge of this is going to make medical decisions. They might make a medical decision whether it's based on it's going to put a burden on your family or they want to save the family's money. If they haven't talked to you about this before and they don't know how you feel about it, how are they going to be making that decision? They'll have to make a decision if a treatment will diminish your quality of life. And do they know what you mean by quality of life? Because everybody's quality of life is different. What is important for me, for my quality of life, is completely different for my best friend, Colleen. Do they know the decisions to make for you if you have an incurable illness? Like, do you want them to keep running tests? Do you want them to find treatment, in hopes that something's going to happen? Or do you just want to live out the rest of your life with no further treatment? Do you want them to put a feeding tube in you if you're unable to swallow? Do you want to be put on dialysis if your kidneys fail? Do you want CPR if you're in a frail condition? So these are all questions that need to go into your advanced directive, because these are things and situations that are going to come up. And if they don't, great. But these can come up. And it needs to go without saying right now, please understand that the medical community at hospitals their job is to save your life. And you might not want your life to be saved by what they have to do in order to save it. If you read anything, read about CPR on frail people, and you'll hear and you'll see what I'm talking about. So all of these things are things that, somebody else needs to know. Whether you choose that to be your spouse, whether you choose that to be your oldest son, whether you choose that to be your best friend or your loyal, loving sister, somebody needs, to be in charge of this, and it needs to be written out. So how do you go about writing all of this out? There's so much, that needs to be covered. So I have a system that's called Do You Know Who I Am? Your Book of Life. And it goes through all of these things, and it makes notations, and it gives you space, to fill out everything that person needs to fill out. And then with your directive, for your advance directive, the system, it'll be in a system where it can be sent to the hospital, it can be sent to your doctor, it can give you a QR code to so that anybody can scan it. If paramedics come in and you're unconscious, all they have to do is scan the QR code that you have in your wallet or you have posted on your refrigerator. All of these things are important. I think that if you ask other people that how important they think that this is, especially if they have been on the other side of this, then they'll know what to do. And I'll just give this brief story before I end here. Somebody that I was recently taking care of had dementia and was having a manic episode. The manic episode wasn't typical of dementia behavior, but it was happening when I was there caregiving, and I was then in a pretty dangerous situation. It was hard for me to have to do this, but I had to call 911. And when 911 came, they asked, who has the power of attorney? And I said, I pretty much believe that I was told that the daughter does. The daughter was out of the country. The police called the daughter. Do you have the power of attorney? Yes, I do. Here's where the binder is. Here's where the folder is. It's just inside the house. The EMTs go inside the house. They get the binder, and the power of attorney clearly stated that the husband was to be the wife's power of attorney unless he was unable, to represent her. Unfortunately, the husband has dementia also, but it was never diagnosed by a doctor because a lot of dementia isn't diagnosed until later stages. But he has dementia. But since it was never diagnosed, and since there's no record of it, he's the one that had to make decisions for his wife. He had no idea or understanding of what was going on. He had no idea what to do. He was going based totally on his emotions. And as a result, decisions were being made about her from a person that was incompetent to make them because that power of attorney was never updated. It really causes a lot of problems, guys. And it is something that's really, really important. So if you're interested in my system, it will take within a few short months, you'll have everything ready. And the only thing that will have to be done is updated on a yearly basis. But it's something really, really important, and it's the greatest gift that you can give to your loved ones. I will take you through the whole process so you'll be fully covered for anything that doesn't have to be done by an attorney. My number is 314-378-5259. Again, my name is Maureen Cherko. You all know me as the End of Life Doula, and I'm with Go in Peace Doula Services. It's not a fun thing to talk about, but I'll help make you feel free and easy while you're doing it. Thanks. Have a good day.